Hello, my name is Liz Rowlinson. I'm here property hunting in the Orihuela Costa in Spain with MASA International, Paul Payne, and one of his very happy buyers, Rhian Head, who's in Wales at the moment. Hello, both of you.
Hello.
Hello.
Great. Well, we're going to be looking at three properties. We're going to be talking to Rhiann about her property. But before we kick off, I mean, this is a really popular area for property hunters, Place in the Sun and generally. Paul, just tell us briefly about Massa and where you operate in Spain.
I think so. MASA International are a real estate company based primarily on the Costa Blanca in Spain, which is southeast Spain. Accessed with Alicante airport, which is situated more or less in the middle of the Costa Blanca, and also a bit further south into the Murcia region, which some viewers may be familiar with from the programme, and the Mar Menor area as well. And there's actually a new airport in this area called Covera, which is the new airport for Murcia. So in that area, new and resale homes for second homes or people looking to actually go and live full time in Spain. So yes, we assist people with the whole project, if you like, from this kind of moment and information through to viewing trips and managing the whole process.
Yeah, we've interviewed a few of your happy buyers over the last couple of years since it all opened up from COVID. It's gone a bit busy. But tell me, Rhiann, tell me about when did you start thinking about Spain? You know, how did your property purchase come about?
Okay, well, we'd had an idea that we wanted to buy a property in Spain, but actually hadn't travelled extensively in Spain. We'd been to the Costa del Sol, the Balearics, the Canaries, like most people have. And we'd done a bit of research online, and then we saw an event at a hotel near us in Cardiff, run by Massa, and just went along to just find out a little bit more, because we weren't really sure where to start. Mm-hmm. So we met Paul. We knew what our budget was, and we had a vague idea as to what we wanted in terms of size of property, but we didn't know the Costa Blanca area. All we knew was what we'd researched online. So we met Paul, and we were expecting perhaps a talk to a group, but it was just us and Paul. So we were able to ask quite a lot of questions, write down a lot of information. And Paul suggested the next step might be a viewing trip, which was no obligation. And that's what we did. And that was in, I think, June 2018. Mm-hmm. So that trip was particularly helpful, because I think it was 3 or 4 days. So we spent the first day going around a lot of the area, because I think, as many people would say, it's important to look at the area first before you perhaps narrow down the property. And we went with an open mind and saw a huge variety of, resale properties, new apartments in lots of different areas. And I think what was quite good about that viewing trip is that during the day, when we had coffee stops or even driving in the car, we were able to pick the brains of Paul going round and, what about this? What about that? What does that mean? Where's that? Etc. Wrote lots of things down. So I think that was a really, really good use of time.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. So what did you actually buy?
We bought an off-plan first floor apartment in Villamartin. Buying off plan was a completely new experience to us and potentially a little bit scary. I think it was about the 4th property we saw on that first day that we went on our viewing trip. My husband liked it straight away from the show home. I wanted to see a few more before I made up our mind. But what was quite good is that the builder allowed us to go and see different properties on different floors, so we could get an idea of the aspect of our so-called unbuilt property. Mm-hmm. Just a shell, so we had an idea of which way it was facing, etc., etc. So that's what we did, and the reason we chose the area was Closeness to amenities. It was important for us to be able to walk to restaurants and bars. A lot of the property around Villamartin is quite attractive. The plaza, the golf course, a lot of the other buildings we liked. The canal, which might sound a little bit odd, but the sort of things that we like to do, walking, cycling, etc. There's quite a safe cycling route for miles and miles through the orange groves and lemon groves on the canal. So that's what we liked as well. Originally, we thought we might like somewhere close to the coast. But when we actually got there and realised that it's nice to have somewhere perhaps a couple of miles in, like Villamartin is, you've got the peace and quiet, but you're close enough to the Xenia Boulevard and the beaches when you want them. But it's nice to have that choice. So that's what made the decision for us.
Yeah, I've heard Villamartin is a big golfing area. Do you play, you or your husband play golf?
No, not yet. My son does. But again, with a golfing area, we understood that means it's all year round, so things don't close down so much. So that was something else as well, because putting COVID aside, I think we tend to use it more slightly off season rather than July and August, which is hot.
So when was it completed?
I think it was about 10 months before completion. And that's where we found the support of Massa was really helpful, because it is quite nerve-wracking, but they would send updates and photographs on how it was going on, etc. It also gave us time to save up some more money during that time, so we were able to buy perhaps better furniture than we would normally. So it worked out quite well.
So it was completed in 2019?
That's right, in May or June.
Great. So you got a bit of usage before the pandemic hit, and then you possibly couldn't go for a bit, which was frustrating, I'm sure.
Yeah, we were quite lucky during the pandemic in that we did manage a few trips in between the lockdowns. But yes, I mean, we didn't know before we bought, but we do like living on an urbanisation. It's quite, there's a good community spirit, lots of different nationalities. And yet, you know, if you want a bit of peace and quiet, you can sunbathe on your terrace. So best of both worlds.
Brilliant. Well, you sound like the trip went very well. I mean, Paul, it was a success from your point of view. Typically, I mean, Rhiann mentioned about her concerns about off plan. I mean, that must get a lot of questions from people on trips.
Yeah, massively. I mean, and so it should, right? Because, you know, you're parting with your life savings for something that you can't put your hands on immediately. So you'd be crazy not to ask a few questions. Hopefully that's where we can come in and help in that scenario in terms of making things really safe. So, you know, we know who we're working with, everything's checked out before we start working with a builder. We insist that buyers have a good lawyer that's independent of the seller, that will always obtain what we call a bank guarantee. So and what Rhiann and other customers would do is you pay in stages up until the house is ready. So the monies that you pay in advance of receiving the keys for the property, we'll obtain what we call bank guarantee, which is like an insurance policy that says, you know, the property must be built to the specifications in the contract by the right dates, the dates as per the contract. Otherwise, you could get your money back. So your money is protected, and that's the main thing, really, that people want the house that they ordered on time, and for it to come how they've been shown in the show house and such. So yeah, that's where we come in, hopefully.
Yeah, and Rhiann did that ideal thing of asking all the questions. She was, yeah, that's a really important point, isn't it? That the viewing trips are not just about looking at properties. It's about having the time with you to ask all about the little details of the area, the transport, the shops, everything else, isn't it? Mm-hmm.
Insurance, banks, you know, customs, traditions. Still haven't got used to the way people drive around roundabouts, but that's another topic.
That's not going to happen. Yes.
And it must be lovely having such a clean, fresh, new property. No maintenance, presumably yet. Hopefully not for a while. Yeah,
ideal, I mean,
really.
We took advantage of buying some things directly from the builder, like the white goods and the air conditioning. Yeah. We went to a local supplier for a furniture package. So literally when we went there, once we'd had our keys, we sorted out power of attorney for our lawyer. So we didn't have to be there for the keys to exchange. So it allowed us some time to go out at our leisure because we were both working at the time. So when we took delivery of the keys, apart from some bits and bobs, it was practically ready to go. So yeah, that was quite nice.
Do you ever plan to rent out your property when you're not using it?
No. We friends and family use it. We haven't applied for a tourist license, although we could, because there are a few of our neighbours who have a tourist license on there. So that's an option for the future, but not at the moment. I think financially it worked out for us that we invested quite a lot in our furniture and that kind of thing. And while it's brand new, we want to keep it spick and span.
Very wise. So yeah, I mean, moving on to Orihuela Costa, I mean, it's been so popular. It has been popular for many years, but it seems to have really, in the last sort of 5 years, really taken off, Paul. I mean, affordability, but sort of infrastructure, amenities. What are they? Why is it so popular?
Well, if you think of all of the different types of boxes that a buyer for a property in Spain could create, you'll find that the Orihuela Costa will tick an awful lot of people's boxes. So it's not too far from the airport, so you can fly into Alicante or Murcia. You're only going to be 30-40 minutes from one or the other, so you can get there easily, and that's a big priority. Of course, that whole area has great weather and good climate year round. Beaches are really good, lots of different types of beaches, small coves which are great in the winter, which will protect you from any winds and sort of the cooler days. And then there's long expansive stretches of golden beach there as well, all blue flag. I think you mentioned earlier the golf course is there. You've got kind of 4 of the best golf courses in the area that are all more or less next to each other. So for sort of sporting activities as well, not just golf, tennis, bowls, lots of outdoor parks, and it's quite a healthy environment. Walking, I think Rhiann said, you've got the lovely canal network there, which is great and safe place to walk or cycle. Great restaurants. It just kind of just seems to tick a lot of boxes. Whether you want kind of like fine dining and really nice experiences, or very rustic and local cuisine, you're going to find it there. So a very convenient base as well. Good for families. Lots of things, activities for young kids to do as well. Little parks and go-kart places to do go-karts and shopping centres. And in the main, I would say, particularly Villamartin, the plaza and such, which is always very popular. It's, I think I'd describe it as lively but not rowdy. So there's always lots of things going on and music, but it's not a place you'd expect to see a stag do or something like that. There's always something to do in that area. So yeah, it's always popular, and always has been. Villamartin Golf Course, which is where the name takes its area from, is probably pushing 50 years now, I suspect. And we've been operating out there for over 40 years, and it's always been one of the top areas for buyers. I think always will be.
Yeah, so moving on to sort of budget, we're going to be looking at 3 properties, and they span between sort of £150,000 and 250 vaguely. Is that the typical budget that your buyers have really for a holiday home mainly?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of that'd be a very sort of normal price range for people to fall into. There are properties that are even cheaper. And there are certainly properties that are a lot more expensive as well. But if you've got around £150,000, give or take a bit, you can find a nice apartment in that area. And if you've got from a bit over 200, 250, you can start looking at semi-detached and detached properties as well.
Okay. All right. Well, look, let's have a look at the first property, which is it's £164,000, and it's a 3-bedroom key-ready apartment. So that's, you get quite a lot for your money there. Just tell us about it briefly, Paul, before we have a look.
Okay, so yes, I wanted to include, something that's in this style that people are really kind of switched on to at the moment, and that's a nice modern property that can be locked up and left, low maintenance. And this is on a development called Sun Golf Beach. I'm sure they came up with that because plenty of sun, golf and beach in the area. And although the video was actually taken a little while ago, so during the video you can see that there are things still in construction, but actually at the moment now it's completely finished, and there are just 4 properties left, one of which is a 3-bed 2-bath property, which has all the air conditioning, white goods, everything included, and an underground parking space as well. So this is something that is very close to Rhiann's property. So you are about 7 or 8 minutes drive to the coast, but plenty of shops, bars and restaurants all within a couple of minutes walk.
Sounds great. Okay, well, let's take a look. Yeah, that is rather nice. When it says it's got some nice furniture, Paul, when it says key ready, does that mean it comes furnished or not?
Key ready doesn't mean it comes furnished. Key ready means it's not in construction, it's completely finished. So right. You're not buying off plan, it's all already all done. And that's quite a rarity these days, because it's so many people buying, they tend to be sold before they're completed, but we have some exceptions here and there, and this is one of them. So no, furniture would still need to be purchased for this property, but there are furniture options which can be supplied. We can arrange either independently or with the builder, but the builder is including all of the white goods and the air conditioning, so just need to buy sofa beds and such as well. So budget anything from sort of €4,000 or €5,000 upwards for all of that equipment.
And there was a nice little sort of shopping area at the end of the video. Was that Villamartin or was that Lasagna?
It was Lasagna Boulevard, which is the big shopping centre in the area that you'll hear people talk about a lot. It seems that we all love Lasagna Boulevard. I think Rhiann, yeah, I guess you've spent a few euros there over the
oh yes
course of your stays. Yeah, it's open, I think, more or less every day of the year, and open from early until late. So a great facility to have nearby.
Great. And then how much would it cost to run this sort of property, Paul?
Community fee here is about €55 per month, which is about average really for that area. Most places are sort of 40 to 60 depending on the property. You'll have council tax to pay, which is called SUMA, which is here about 250 a year, give or take a few euros. And then you've just got water and electric to pay. So there's no gas, it's just all done on usage. I suggest people budget about 1,500 a year to sort of cover water, electric, and all of these things.
Gosh, you know, council tax hikes in the UK. I mean, it makes it seem so affordable, and then never mind energy hikes, but that's a whole separate subject. Rhiann, how much do you find it quite an affordable? I mean, having a second home is a second lot of expenses, isn't it?
Well, we've worked out what the apartment costs us. Adding to what Paul said, obviously, apartment insurance. We opted for an insurance agent in the UK, which was slightly more expensive, but it gave us peace of mind to do that. So we've got an amount that we allocate, right? That's what it's costing us, regardless of when we use it. So when you look at it like that, it kind of, you don't stress about it if you can't get there because of pandemics and all sorts of things. We've also built into that, we found a really good company locally who acts as our key holder, property checker once a month. She also does our laundry when we go home. Our cleaning, or even if we want someone to come and, like, we put some extra locks on the windows, for example, she went there and stood with the guy who did it. So yes, we've allocated a cost to that. And certainly with, you mentioned the fuel prices, energy prices, Spain is still far cheaper than the UK. So when we're there, we probably spend less than we do in the UK. So yeah, it's something that we've budgeted for.
Brilliant. And a community, I mean, an urbanisation, they have a community, which Paul alluded to as well. It's sort of run, isn't it? And you have to sort of keep, you often, as an owner, you have a say in how it's run, don't you?
Yes.
Or costs.
In our community, I think our community charges about £47 a month, but we pay quarterly. It's often what puts up the price of things like lifts, elevators in the blocks. My husband has been nominated or elected as president for our particular block. So, and there are 6 blocks. So yes, they decide on what to spend the money on, like extra umbrellas they've agreed lately, but not to heat the pool, for example. That was far too expensive. So yes, you do get a say in it. And I think what's nice is that I think this happens on most urbanizations, is that there's a group Facebook page. And because you've got all different nationalities, it's quite easy to translate what people are saying. And fortunately for us, most people's second language is English, so we can kind of understand each other. But you know, the community spirit in the urbanization is great. You know, we've got friends out there now that we go out to lunch with when we're there, meet in the pool and chat about things, recommend restaurants, all sorts of things. So that suits us.
Great. Okay. Thanks. We'll whiz on and look at our second property now. Paul, this is a 3-bedroom property, I think. Well, tell us about what we're seeing.
This is a two-bedroom property. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. Again, it's a brand new property. Again, it's key ready, so it's not in construction. You can move straight in. And it's actually the very last property available on this new development. I wanted to take you from the Villamartin part of the Orihuela Costa down closer to the sea, near to La Zenia Boulevard, and an area called Playa Flamenca, which is a really lovely beach. Very popular beach area, so you're close to the shopping centres there. And this would be 15 minutes walk or so, 20 minutes max from the beach. So you could walk to the sea from here. £140,000, which is about 168,000 euros, I should say, which is about £140,000. And it's a brand new ground floor property.
Gosh, I think I thought it was 3 bedrooms because I think we get a lot for that budget. Okay, well, let's have a look. Wow, so you've got a bar, pool, pretty much everything there. It's there's a lot going on.
Yeah, it's a really nice development actually, and I say it's been super popular, hence why probably only one property left there. But it is typical the type of thing that you can find in this area, and that we specialise in ourselves. So why would someone buy here? Again, easy to lock up and leave. Zero maintenance to worry about, nice pool area. Cost of the community is very low. You'll notice when you see grass on the modern properties, it's all artificial grass, so you're not paying, the community doesn't have to pay out lots of money for the upkeep of all of these things. So the community fee here is just under €50 a month, so it's really good price. Yeah, walk to the beach, walk to La Zenia Boulevard shops. We've got lovely restaurants in this area, a great market as well. Playa Flamenca is quite famous for its Saturday market. So if you enjoy browsing all of those fine things there, you have that every Saturday to look forward to. So yeah, that's Turquesa del Mar in Playa Flamenca.
Great. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of sort of separate bits of that property. You could get a lot of space for a family. It's ideal, I think.
Yeah, there's good size apartments, good size properties, nice bit of outside space there as well to enjoy. So yeah, it's all about being made to enjoy the good weather that we should have on the Costa Blanca the year round, really. They're very energy efficient as well. I have made a deliberate move to show you modern properties, particularly as we are more energy conscious now, and these new modern properties are much more efficient than the older style houses. So they will hold insulation very well. So in the summer, when you're trying to cool down the property, a bit of air conditioning and closing the blinds while you're out, keep your property nice and cool while you're at the beach. And likewise in the winter, perhaps when you want a little bit of warmth in the evenings, it's not going to cost much just to take that edge off the cooler nights that perhaps we get for a few weeks every year.
Okay. And just actually a question for you, Rhiann. This area, how much is it British? Is it Spanish? Is it other nationalities? Can you give us a flavour of who your neighbours are?
On our urbanisation, there are a few British people, but I would say not the majority. There are some Spanish, Icelandic, Belgian, French, Dutch. I think that's probably it. But so yeah, a good mix.
Okay, yeah, because it is very popular with the Spanish, that area, isn't it? It's some people think the Costa Blanca is quite Brit centric, but it's not all like that, is it? Some pockets are more British sort of expats sort of than others.
Yeah, the thing is, the Costa Blanca and southeast Spain in general, it's represented by every country that's located somewhere cold. So you're going to find people from Scandinavia, all over Northern Europe. You're never going to be more than a few meters from someone from one of those countries, but also Spain as well. So you get people from the northern Spain will take holidays in this area, and even cities like Orihuela Costa, for example. The city of Orihuela is about 40 minutes or so inland. When you go 40 minutes or so inland in Spain, it's very, very hot. So people from these cities will come and spend time on the coast in the summer to cool down. So you'll find a lot of the Spanish in that area will have second homes or will spend time, particularly during the weekends and the summer, to actually cool down from the hot cities that are in the inside the interior of Spain.
Great. All right. Well, look, let's whiz on to third property. Now, this is a resale property, Paul.
Yes, I wanted to show you one example of a resale property and one example of a property that actually has its own pool. And this is a resale property located next to a very famous commercial area, one of the more modern ones called La Fuente, which is in the Campoamor area of Villamartin, Orihuela Costa. So about 5-6 minutes from the sea by car or bus or taxi. The La Fuente Centre has about 20 different bars, restaurants there. There's supermarkets, pharmacy. So a really good place to be if you just want everything on your doorstep, all kinds of entertainment and services. But the property itself is a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom terraced villa with its own pool. It's also within a community, a gated community that has a shared pool as well. So if you want to do your morning lengths in terms of swimming, you can use the communal pool. Or if you just want to splash down and cool down, you've got your own little pool there as well. But yeah, there's some features in this house that I absolutely love. So this was a definite one I wanted to include to show you, and priced at €269,000, £224,000. I think this is a great buy for this area for anyone that's looking for perhaps something a little step up from an apartment.
Okay, let's take a look.
Qué bonita es aquella de primavera, colgada al rostro sin miedo al tiempo. Como un río me corre por mis adentros, tocando todo lo que yo siento. Y prefiero la llama que a todas ganas quema distinto que el fuego lento. la de aquella mirada que busca lejos donde se esconden todos los sueños. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. No te olvides de un día decir te quiero sin que te quede sobra por dentro. Del que no dice nada nadie se entera, no existiría prosa ni cuento. Y sentado en mi silla de cancionero te haré que escuches tus sentimientos. Que te falte la duda de que el amor es lo único cierto en este momento.
I like it looks really sort of different and unique, I think, the way that the private sort of entrance is. What do you particularly like about it, Paul?
I just like the fact that it feels like it's a villa, because it does have its own pool. It's lots of outside space, the garden, the rooftop solarium, which has got its own little barbecue area, even a little bar built up there. Yet there's no maintenance to worry about. It's within a community, you know, you just, again, you can lock it up and leave it just like an apartment. So ideal for someone that's sort of coming or going, but although people do live there for year round. But I like the idea of getting off the plane, arriving into the place, your home in Spain, and not having to cut grass and paint walls and things. So a nice, modern, easy to look after property. And the thing I can't get across to you from the video is exactly where it is, and the location's just great. You know, you're right in the middle of the golf course areas. You're whatever you need, you can walk to it very, very, very quickly. The only thing you need transport for is to nip down to the beach.
Great. We've talked about a few different things that you can do. You've mentioned golf. We've talked about beaches, shopping. What are some of the other things, Rhiann, that you've discovered in the area on your trips?
Cycling, I mentioned.
Yes,
that we've done quite a bit. We've joined a local walking group out there, which is a great way to meet other people and also go on walks that perhaps you wouldn't find by yourself. So we usually try and do one or two of those when we're out in Spain. I think too, Paul touched on eating out, and that's another of our must-dos. And I think what we like about Villamartin is that you turn one way and you've got all the sort of the advantages of the tourist area, like the shops and the restaurants, everything from fine dining to tapas. But if you turn inland, all of a sudden you're driving through the orange and lemon groves, and you can drive easily to small Spanish villages with, you know, they do the menu of the day for perhaps €10, which is really, really good food, and it makes a lovely drive out. So that's something that we like to do as well.
Sounds great. What about you went on a viewing trip because you explained how you'd met Paul at an event, and that was the sort of the logical next step. I mean, often we say, well, you can just go on holiday to an area and set up some appointments. You can do it so-called independently. But for you, because you said you weren't familiar with a lot of the area, it worked really well for you, and you might not have kind of gone the other route.
I think it's a bit of a no-brainer, because I think you'd never find all of those locations by yourself and various properties. And I think you need to see a lot of places that don't suit you to narrow down what does suit you. And I think even though our viewing trip was 3 days, 4 days, we chose our property on the first day. So we spent the rest of that trip endorsing our choice, walking around the area, going in the local bars, trying things out, etc. But yeah, it just saves you so much time, and I'm not sure that you would, and you wouldn't gain the knowledge either, because I think, you know, who is there to ask unless you've got someone with you who can perhaps, show you around. So time saving and ease.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I was going to say that, I mean, a lot of people speak English in Spain, but I mean, yeah, if you're navigating the whole buying process, looking at properties without being fluent in Spanish, that's another advantage of dealing with an agent who's very geared up for British buyers.
I think as well, if you are considering a new property or an off-plan property, it's nice to be dealing with builders that have been endorsed or that Massa knows well. The builder that we bought our property from, we took to. I know it's not very important, but we did. And then when we came to, I needed to go into the property before it was completed to allow the person who was doing my curtains and tables, etc., to go measure up. So they arranged for us to do that, and there was it was a good company to deal with. But we wouldn't have known that if Massa hadn't guided us that way.
Yeah, good point. And what about Paul? So if you do events with us at Place in the Sun, but I mean, and you obviously do some other events that, like the one Rhian went to. How would people go about coming to see you, booking a trip?
The first thing to do is give us a call or visit our website, which is masainternational.com, or give us a call which is on the screen there. Let's make a start. We can make a plan to meet either at a Place in the Sun show, or we can have a chat over the phone, do a Zoom call, and get your plans up and running, and start to plan perhaps for a really nice viewing trip. It's not just. I think Rhian perhaps touched on it, and you mentioned the alternative is you just get yourself out to Spain, meet up with a load of estate agents, and that can work. But what we're going to do is actually plan a lot of the trip before you've even set foot in Spain, which is, I think that helps us to identify the property quite quickly. As Rhian said, found the property on day one, because we'd obviously been having a little think about what could possibly work, what's the brief, and the planning that goes in ahead of a client arriving is crucial. So first thing to do is just get in touch with us, and we can start planning that. In terms of cost, 4-day trips usually run from about £100 upwards, depending on when you're going, and we can always make trips shorter or longer to suit your needs as well.
Are you holding any events in Spain or the UK for buyers this summer?
We have viewing trips, departures every day of the week now, from all over the UK. The demand is as high as I've ever known it. So there's lots of capacity to bring people over. And in terms of availability for helping people, yes, we're having online consultations all day, every day almost now. So to help people with their plans. So it's just a phone call away really to get your plans up and running.
Great. And then Rhiann, if someone's contemplating a viewing trip like you did, would you be able to give them a few little tips for sort of how to approach it, things to do to sort of help memorize, I don't know, make their decision?
I think it's important to give your brief before you go, whether that's your budget or what you think is important. But then when you go, I would say go with an open mind. Don't be too narrow-minded as to, well, I want a place there or here or this kind of thing. Because as I said, I think you have to look at places that may not suit you to know what will suit you.
Yeah, because that's like just like on the TV program of Place in the Sun, it's the presenters or the researchers is listening to the buyers like you and thinking, maybe they think they want this, but from what they've said there, maybe they actually would be better suited to X or Y. And that's what people do, don't they? And
definitely.
but you interestingly, you didn't go for the so-called property 5. You went from the property 1, and you went from, you kind of saw what you wanted early on. But interestingly, as you say, it reinforced the idea that you'd seen the right thing.
Yes, because we saw other off-plan properties, but didn't get the feel of the area. So, as I said, it's often the area that actually swings it, and then a property that's going to suit you.
And I mean, looking forward, do you ever plan to spend longer times out in Spain, move there even?
Well, obviously Brexit has thrown up some challenges for that, though I'm ever the optimist and hope that 90 and 180 rule will be relaxed at some stage. But at this stage, we don't plan to become residents of Spain, but we would like to spend more time out there now that we're both semi-retired.
Oh, it would be rather wonderful to spend if the 90-day thing was at least relaxed, so that we could spend maybe 180. That would make a lot of difference. But we will see. Well, look, that's been very useful. Thanks, Rhiann. Paul, anything to add before we close up?
I would just add on the for those thinking that they would like to actually go and live in Spain, and just to clarify, what is the 90, 180-day rule? So off the peg, someone from the UK can spend 90 days in every 180-day period without the need for any visas. But should Rhiann or anyone decide they want to go and live in Spain straight away, that's very much possible. And there are a number of different visas available. The most common one is called a non-lucrative visa, which means that as long as you can show that you have income or savings that can support your stay while you're in Spain, and that you have private medical care, you can live in Spain, but you cannot work there. If you want to work there, that's a different visa that needs to be obtained. But if you just want to go and retire to Spain, or spend more than the 180 days every year, non-lucrative visa, and that's something that we can assist you with as well.
And yeah, and if you're over UK pension age, you don't even have to have the private healthcare after a certain length of time. You can tap into the Spanish healthcare system with your S1 form. So
that's right. After a certain period of time, immediately
there's a little interim period when you have to have it. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you both. I think that's it. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Rhiann. I hope you enjoy your holiday home for the rest of its future. And thanks again, Paul. See you at one of our shows soon.
Absolutely. See you again soon. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.